All right, Edison players, this is Schwifty here, trying my first attempt at making a video. Don't have a lot of experience with this, so give me some leeway. I wanted to make a video showing off some games from Quickdraw at high-rated ladder matches. I know people were kind of asking about this and curious for some gameplay, so I have 5 replays here, 4 wins, 1 loss, 5 different decks. My thought process was to go into the games, I'll hide the opponent's hands, and I'll kind of talk about, my rationale behind the plays, what I was playing around, what I was thinking. There's misplays, I can talk about those too. I'll show hands at times too, so you can see what they have. But, I kind of want to play with that a little bit too, just so that you can kind of see what I see. I do want to make a video of me actually playing the games live. I was trying that the other day, but I think my energy was a little off, so I'll try that again in the future, but we'll start with this. I'm going to quickly go over my deck, which is here in front of me, and maybe talk about some choices. If you are not interested in this part of the video, then you can just fast forward to the matches. But, don't ask me afterwards, like, why did you choose this card? Because that's what I'm going to do right now. Quickly, before I get into that, if you have any questions that are like, hey, can I use this card instead of this card? The answer is yes. You can use whatever cards you want. These are just the cards that I want to use. So those questions are, I understand they're in good faith, but sometimes it's like, dude, just play what you want. Okay, so let's talk about the deck really quick. This is a slightly spicy quick draw list because there's a couple of different things here. So I'll just go over it real fast. So we have 2 Caius. Caius is a card that's very good in this deck. Sometimes it's good at 3, sometimes 2. I've run both. Pros and cons to both. I wouldn't run less than 2. Sometimes 3 feels right, sometimes 2 feels right. It can be bad going second. Obviously, having multiple in your hands without a way to tribute. It's very strong when it's strong. And, so 3 makes sense because you want to see it a lot, but 2 can be good too. Trooper, self-explanatory, I think. It's a debris target, it mills. 2 Dandy, 3 debris. This is a version of the deck that can make debris live very quickly. And because I'm running a lot of back row, the Stardust are strong. I am running Plasma. Some of you might be excited for that. I actually turned around on this card. I was always using this little 3-hero package to enable Future Fusion, but this hero used to be Evil Hero Infernal Prodigy. And I wanted to try a list with Plasma instead because, Plasma was way more fun. And in truth, he's been good. He's not always good. Sometimes it's bricky in the hand. But overall, I would say his impact has been a lot more positive than Evil Heroes. So I'm a believer. Then we have 2 elemental heroes. This is just enough to enable Future Fusion, and also Stratos is still live, right? You can Stratos search Plasma, and therefore Future Fusion is still live. You can also dump Stratos with Future Fusion if you have something like Call of the Haunted, or you make Drill Warrior, because then you can bring the Stratos back and search Plasma. So there's cool plays. I am running Gores, even though it's slightly anti-synergistic, with all of these things that can stay on the board, like Dandy tokens, Future Fusion, Call. You can side this, you can cut it completely. I don't remember. I think I put it back in with just the rise of these really fast decks like Gigavice and Forgs. I just wanted to, not die if they wiped my board or whatever. Gardna, it's a good card. You can dump it with Quick Draw and Drill, or mill it with Trooper if you're lucky. 3 Quick Draw, because I want to fucking get Quick Draw. I always want to have it. Some people run 2. I don't know. I think 3 is... It's a card you don't want multiples of, but you kind of always want one to make plays with. It's not true that you need to have Dandy to make this card good. You just need Dandy access, which is different. You can go Debris into Fairy or Black Rose and then make a Drill the next turn or something like that. So I think the Quick Draws are good. We've got a Sangan. It's insane in this deck. You can search Quick Draw, you can search Debris, you can search Lone Fire, you can search Dandy, you can search whatever. It's very strong. Some other spicy techs. I am on Morphing Jar. This is a card that Quick Draw used to run often. But now it's fallen out of favor, not just in Quick Draw, but in basically everything. It's very rare to see this card at all anymore, and therefore it's a lot stronger. Morphing Jar is the kind of card that is exponentially better. I don't know if that's the right use of the word exponentially. It's just a lot better when your opponent doesn't expect it at all, right? It's you can set it in 3 back row and people aren't really thinking, oh, it might be Morphing Jar like they used to be, because just no one's playing it. So I've been trying it out, and it's been good basically every game. I've had games where it doesn't matter, and games where it's been helpful. I'm sure I'll experience games where it's bad, but overall I've been liking it. Titanial, Search for the Limfire. It's a good card. It's a really strong card. It sucks to draw it, but we'll talk about that in a second. And then Reaper is also a new spicy tech that I'm not 100% on yet. Again, this is something Quickdraw used to run. It does have some synergy with the deck in that it can be brought back with Debris. Because Debris negates its effect, it won't die from the targeting. So it's a target for Debris. The reason is I'm not running Light Sworns, which you may have noticed. There's no milling outside of Card Trooper. And so I wanted one more good normal summon. And I was like, what's one good normal summon that could fit this deck? And I'm like, oh, Spirit Reaper. I mean, you can set it turn 1. It can pressure opponents that don't commit, so you don't if they just set back row, you don't want to go off. Reaper is a fun force back row or punish them. I love hand ripping. It makes me so salty when it happens to me, so I imagine it makes other people salty when it happens to them. So I don't know. I'm trying it out. I'm not 100% sold, but this is what I'm running right now. Okay, spells. I feel like all of this is self-explanatory except for a couple things. Maybe these two. There's only one Avarice. I'm not running Light Sworns, so there's less milling. I also I don't know. I feel like even when I ran a couple of Light Sworns, Avarice was a card you're happy to have, but hate to open. Sometimes it's too slow. So, even though this deck puts cards in the graveyard quickly-ish, you don't always want to put them back. Right? If you have Drill Warrior, for example, you don't want to Avarice everything back because you want the option to return, maybe I'll want a Quickdraw back, maybe I'll want a Debris back, maybe I'll want a Dandy back. So that can make Avarice awkward. Obviously, having opening Avarice is awkward, period, especially in a deck that can sometimes brick your hands. So I feel like with one, because Card Trooper is the only milling card, it's likely to be live every game. And it's less likely to open and brick. That being said, I'll show you a couple games where I open it, and it's bad that I opened it. So even at one, that can get in your way. Scapegoat I'm running because it doesn't have bad synergy with Quickdraw. I mean, you can synchro the tokens with Quickdraw. So this can act as if you don't have Dandy, or if you want to make something, you can block a couple of hits. Scapegoat's also stronger, again, with the rise of these OTK decks, because, they'll True Nade or Heavy, and you can chain Scapegoat, and now it's you're probably not going to kill me, and I'll probably have some tokens that I can synchro with. You can synchro with Debris, you can synchro with Quickdraw, and lastly it has great synergy with Plasma. It can't be tributed for a tribute summon, but Plasma's not a tribute summon. You have to tribute, but not a summon. It's a special summon. So you can tribute 3 Scapegoat tokens and make Plasma. Heavy MST. I am maining a Road. I think it's a good card to main right now. It's good after I make Titanial, right? Because typically if you go for an early Titanial, the biggest threats are Torrential and Mirror Force, because everything else you can probably play around with Titanial. So those are good against that. It's good against Blackwings. It's good against Lightsworn. I mean, you can side this card or not run it. I've been liking it. 2 Bottomless, Torrential. I'm running 1 Break. I think there's a decent number of discard targets. I'm still back and forth on Break. I like its versatility, right? Often it's a Dust Tornado. Often it can hit a monster. So I don't know. It's a very versatile card. I think it's okay as a one-of because of I have a few good discards. The 2 Dandies, the Gardna, and Titanial's okay too if you draw it. Mirror. I am running 1 D Prison. There's a second in the side. I'll talk about that in a second. Call of the Haunted. This is something I go back and forth on. There are a lot of good targets in Quickdraw, in terms of if the call is removed, you can chain and hit Dandy to get tokens, Sanguine to search, Card Trooper to draw. You can call Stratos and search, but not if it's removed. So if they MST the call, you cannot chain Stratos and search. The reason being is that Stratos is a when this card is, you can, which means it'll miss timing if you chain it to an MST or some sort of removal. So that's an illegal play. You can't do that. That being said, you can still send the Stratos with Future Fusion and then call it back normally if you want to search Plasma. So that's sometimes useful. Trap Dust Shoot, I mean, come on. 1 Trap Stun in the main, another in the side, and a Solemn. So it's a heavy back row suite, and I like that. I also like that because I'm running this many back row and not milling, again, outside of Trooper. One of the downsides of milling is it's not just, okay, I didn't hit my dandy, which is like, obviously that happens a lot. It's when you mill things like heavy or mirror or torrential, and now your opponent does not need to play around those cards at all. It's a huge weakening point. So, I mean, it makes sense to run milling in decks like Machina that are on 3 Avarice that really want to put their Fortress in grave. It makes sense in Vayu where they have like 3 Vayu and 3 Sirocco and Gardena and Plague Spreader, and but when you only have like 3 or 4 good mill targets, I mean, milling is good. Sometimes it's not. It depends. So I'm choosing not right now. All right, quick side deck, and then we'll get into the games. We have 1 Sirocco. Yes, that's his name. And this is just to have a stronger matchup against Blackwings. It's kind of a surprise, big amount of damage. It plays around, if they play a Blackwing and set Royal Oppression or Deck Devastation Virus or something like that, Sirocco gets over Kalut. It can get over a lot of back row. Or it can just force out a back row with your normal, which other normals you have might be tougher to do that. Late game, it can just kill them if you've done some damage. 1 Cyber Dragon. I bring this in against Gigavice, Machina, Gladiator Beast, usually. Some other examples, but those are the main ones. 1 Kaiku. I bring this in against Vayu, Lightsworn, Fairies, Frogs, basically anything that wants the graveyard a lot. Sorry, I had like a hiccup. Then there's 3 DD Crows. Normally this was like a 2 of, but I think again with the rise of things like Gigavice, and Forgs, I want to have this card. For all the good it does me, there's games I side in all 3 and you still don't see it, but statistically 3 is better than 2 if you want to see it, right? 2 Smashing Ground. This is kind of newish. The reason is I'm not using Lightning Vortex because this deck kind of has Lightning Vortex in the form of Debris into Black Rose. And for those of you that don't know, if you Debris, Dandy, or Sanguine into Black Rose, it makes things like dupes miss timing because the Sanguine or the Dandy effect has to resolve. So that makes Debris into Black Rose one of the stronger outs to like dupe block boards and things like that. It's a good out to the Gigavice board if they don't have Stardust, because a lot of the time they don't. They end with Titanial. That being said, the reason it's Smashings is a lot of decks you just want to remove that 1 monster so you can make your play. The ones I'm mainly thinking of are Blackwings. Often, right? Like they sit behind maybe a Kalut or whatever, and it's like I can't attack over this monster, but maybe I can just smash it. Gladiator Beasts are a huge one, right? Maybe they've got Wabaku, they've got Trap Stun, they've got Chariot, right? They've got everything ready. If you try to attack them, they're ready. If you try to trap, they're ready. But smashing, it's like they often just can't do anything about it. So that's really useful. Also, things like Fairies, decks that side Vanity's Fiend, things that like that, you can just be like smash. Soul Release, 1 of deck graveyard decks. 2 Dust Tornado. This is for things like Blackwings, Gigavice, stuff like that. 2nd Deep Prison. This is for decks that Deep Prison is really good against. So Blackwings, Gladiator Beasts, Machina, maybe. 1 Compulse. This is for decks that like Synchro a lot. Think like Absolute Zero type stuff. Or Fusion, I mean. Body is a Shield. This is really strong in this deck. This is a card, if you wanted to, you could even like main and then side a 2nd, depending on the meta. This lets you... There's a lot of uses to this card people don't realize, or a lot of people don't realize, so I'll quickly go over them, and then we'll get into the games. The obvious stuff, right? Blocks Torrential, blocks Bottomless, so you can get your Drill Warrior through, blocks Mirror. But here's some lesser-known stuff, maybe. If you Debris Dragon, use its effect, and your opponent uses Royal Oppression, or even if they already have a Royal Oppression, they activate the effect of Royal Oppression, you can My Body as a Shield. This will kill the Royal Oppression and let you get the Debris play through. Very, very useful. If they deck Devastation Virus, as long as you have a face-up target, can't be face down, but if you have a token or a monster that will be destroyed by DDV, then My Body as a Shield will negate the DDV. Very useful. This lets you Black Rose through Stardust. This lets you Black Rose through Starlight Road. So this lets you get these, board wiping plays through players that think they're safe. Sometimes they'll even let you go into the Black Rose when they could have stopped it because they have like Starlight Road and they're like, or Stardust, and they're like, I'll be fine. You My Body as a Shield, because Black Rose is still a face-up monster when it's using its effect, My Body as a Shield will prevent Stardust or Starlight Road from killing it and then negate it and let the Rose go through. So it has a lot of uses. second copy of Trapstun for like DDV decks, Blackwings, stuff like that. Any decks, any fucking bullshit like Chain Burn or I don't know, these Macrocosmos decks. I'll side this in against Hero Beat, just heavy trap decks. Oh, also my Body's a Shield is good against Hero Beat, Gemini Spark. It'll negate the Spark so they don't draw. Okay, let's get into the games. Here we go. So our first replay here is against a Gladiator Beast player. Let me show my hand, and we'll get started here. And I will kind of fast forward through plays. It's really loud. All right, so I don't know he's on Gladiator Beast yet. So the first play here, looking at this hand, is you have options, right? Typically, you could either open with Stratos or you could open with Lone Fire Blossom. I choose Stratos because he has 2 back row, so I want to save my Lone Fire play for Titanial until I see some of that. And it worked out well because it forced out a Bottomless, which would have otherwise hit Titanial. Let's move on. I decide to go for a quick draw play here since I saw Bottomless. It's unlikely a player would set 2 Bottomlesses, right? This is a decently high-rated player. Usually people don't set 2 of the same back row turn 1, or hardly ever. Oh, but he wanted me to wait, so we go back. And he decides to Book of Moon. So now that he's used both back row, I say, fuck it. Let's go for Plasma. We have Bottomless. And we got both the back row, and we have Titanial for next turn. Again, we don't know his deck yet, but we figure this must be something he doesn't want me to kill, considering he Bottomless to Stratos and then booked our quick draw. So we steal it. It is a Secular, which sucks for him. But he just wanted it to survive so he could, get rid of it next turn. I'll show his hand. Show both. Oops. So yeah, he wanted to protect that Secular so he could go Prisma into, Bestiary and make Jizzerus. He goes for Murmillo. Unfortunately, he does have the Book of Moon, and Plasma's pathetic 600 defense will not protect him. We did have Bottomless. Obviously, that doesn't work against Murmillo. He goes for that. But he is greedy and goes for Bestiary, which causes his Bestiary to be removed from the game. And when you can hit this, it's a very good thing against Gladiator Beasts, as you may know. Now we can safely go into Titanial with a D-Prison. Does a ton of damage. And with him drawing another Gladiator Beast, that's game 1 down. I guess one thing you won't see in these replays is my siding pattern, so I can talk about that at the end of the video if anyone's interested for each of the deck types. But for now, we'll just go to games. Yep, so not much we can do here except set all our back row and pray. It's a good thing that we... Oh, no, I'm sorry, continue. Let's just go to the next play. He goes for the Kitty Cat. Fast forward. He goes double Test Tiger. Test Tiger Bestiary. Hits the road, which totally screws me. Because my only chance of winning, essentially, this game was for, him to go and do a Jizzerus. Yes, that's how you say it. And then road. And now it's like, I'm cooked, right? We don't Mirror Force here. The reason being is, if we Mirror Force this, he's got Bestiary in Grave. I have no more cards. All he has to do is hit me with any Gladiator Beast, and he goes into Darius. By letting him hit me here, there's nothing he can get immediate value off of. There's no Gladiator and Beast for him to quest, and he can't go Bestiary into Bestiary. So I may as well hold the back row. I draw Titanial, like, probably the worst card you could draw right now, just about. And the game's over. Gladiator Beast is a terrible matchup for quick draw, but it's much easier if you win game 1, because then you go first game 3. And hopefully not draw like that. So kind of a mid hand, right, with just Stratos and a whole bunch of back row. We decide to set 3 here because basically this hand was not strong enough to play around too much. In other words, I normally play around heavy. I'm not someone who likes to set 3 without protection. But because this hand and because of the deck we're against, I had to adopt the mentality, if he has heavy, then he wins, right? Sometimes you can't play around things, and it's better to just say, you know what, if they have this card, I'm going to lose anyway, so I'll assume they don't have it, right? So even if I had set 1 or 2 and he played heavy, I'm probably going to lose with just a Stratos and you know. So anyway, we set them all. My Body's a Shield protects against like a Murmillo or a Jizzerous play if he hits the monster, you know. Anyway, let's just keep going. We end phase Dust, so we can also set MST in the end phase. And this is where, you know, things get tricky. I don't know what these back row are. You know, we're looking at them here, but during the game, it's like, do you play around Mirror Force? Or do you have to play around D-Prison, right? D-Prison's more likely. Book of Moon is more likely. So, in this case, I choose not to play... Well, no, I have my Body, actually, for Mirror, so I forgot about that. I also wanted to bait Starlight Road a little bit against this guy. He saw Starlight Road the previous game, so that you can use Starlight Road to your advantage like that sometimes, right? They see Starlight Road the previous game, so another reason you can set 3 is just be like, maybe he'll be afraid to heavy. And then I can keep playing like I have Starlight Road by attacking the mirror and things like that. I actually forgot about that until now, but that is what I was thinking as I made these plays. Okay. He's got really nothing here. We're just going to keep setting back row. He has to set his Prisma, because what else can he do, really? He prisons. We can't stop prison. He books. He's trying to survive. We have a lot of back row, though. He does get Test Tiger, which is what he needed. Now watch this play. This is annoying because he gets very lucky. Right? We have Bottomless, and My Body, and D-Prison. So you think we're safe. But boom, he snipes the Bottomless, the only back row that he needed to snipe to make this play. Puts the Bestiary, goes into Darius. Does he hit the monster? No, he hits both back row, so I cannot My Body. Come on, go. So that MST snipe was perfect. That being said, he's low on life. He's low on resources. We draw Road now. Luckily, he goes for Herculinos, which was, I don't know. I had Torrential if he went for another monster. Maybe he should have just attacked. It's tough to say in his position what he should have done there. But he went for Herculinos. I Torrentialed. He had to ditch the last card in his hand, which means now my Brain Con was good to just swing for game. I guess his thought process was Herculinos plus a card in the hand plus Chariot might be enough. But we also had Smashing here too, so you can see like we were prepared for this, even if we didn't have the game right here instead of Brain Con. Or if he had another card in hand, we could Brain Con first or Smashing first and then Brain Con, whatever. Okay, so that was our win versus Gladiator Beast. Now we are moving on to a game against Bad Robot. And he is on Diva Hero. I think he always plays Diva Hero, but at least that's what I've seen him the last few times we've played. He's on Diva Hero. So let's do it. He won the die roll to go first. Or I mean the rock, paper, scissors. We don't die roll here. I'll fast forward a little. Sets a card. Again, I don't know what his deck is yet, even though I can probably assume it's Diva Hero based on what I've seen him play in the past and, you know, running Gardna. But Trooper is a great first turn play here. It's a Reaper. Or we're scared here. I hate running into Reaper like this because I have a feeling it's going to hurt my hand. I set both the Road and the Heavy, you know, on the off chance that maybe he'll heavy me. He didn't set any back row. Maybe he'll heavy me and I'll be in a good spot, you know. And also, like, it's fine to set heavy here. He goes for the Brain Con, so it's like, fuck. He gets the mill. He gets the tribute. He's going to rip a card in my hand. Everything's going wrong. Luckily, his mill is bad. Now, we got lucky here a little bit because he hits the best card for us in this situation, which is Neos. I would say that's the card that I least wanted. I want to hold the Morphing Jar because now it's like my chance to come back in the game. And I wanted to hold the Quick Draw, although this would have been the second card I wanted to hit. I just didn't want to hit the Morphing Jar. So that's great. Take 19. He tributes sets, so we can assume it's malicious. Now, we draw a debris here, so I was considering I'll set Jar, but I'm like, I feel like I should probably use this debris dragon. Maybe he set a mirror force, right? So we go for debris into Trooper. We get a mill, because even though debris negates the effect of Trooper, you can still activate it. We do not hit, you know, Dandy or Garden on the mill. But we're hoping, like, let's put Malicious in the grave at least. And maybe he'll mirror. Maybe he'll mirror, and we can road, and that would be fantastic. He does not. We go into an Ancient Fairy Dragon, and basically the thought process here, this is another where if they have it situations. If he has Caius, I'm fucked, right? If I set Morphing Jar and he tributes Caius, I'm dead. So I'm going to make the play that assumes he does not have Caius, right? So that's something that I think a lot of players sometimes struggle with, is they play around the thing that would crush them. When the thing is going to crush you, then you have to assume they don't have it. Does that make sense? Okay. So we play like he doesn't have it. We put that Ancient Fairy in defense. We see as soon as that Reaper turns to defense, it's like a sigh of relief, because we know he's not going to make a play. So he sets some more cards. We draw Torrential, which is great. Gonna set. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually heavy here first, because he has 2 back row, and I'm thinking this road's not gonna help me. We get a really good value, although he did have mirror, you know, but we weren't gonna trigger it this turn. We kill his face down with Ancient Fairy. This is a risk. Obviously, you don't want Ancient Fairy in attack mode, but I considered leaving that monster up to be a greater risk. Again, if he has to make a tribute play, I'd much rather he tribute Reaper than whatever the hell this is. We set our Jar, and we wait and see. Now, we do draw... we really just needed any monster, right? It's great that he just passed, because now we're going to get really good value on Jar. We wanted any monster because we wanted to special quick draw before we flip Jar. So it doesn't matter that this is a second quick draw. Any monster would do great. So we're going to summon the quick draw and flip our Jar. Quick draw is very strong when you resolve Jar, because all of these, once you get enough cards, you can do so many things. So for those of you who are familiar with the deck, you can probably tell that this is lethal. To check the grave here, there's no Gores. So, you know, assuming there's no Fader or Trag, which he's not running, see if you can find the lethal. For those of you that have played the deck, you probably can find it pretty quick. But I will keep moving. So we think for a second, make sure we have it. We go for the debris. Oh, and show you our grave as well. It's relevant. We do not make Junk Archer here. The reason being is Junk Archer would leave us short of lethal. Junk Archer would be 21 plus 23, which is 44. And then Rose, which is the highest, you know, attack 7-star we can make, is 6,800. That would leave him at 400. So it's not Junk Archer. We do make Nitro. And we mill, because why not? Maybe we'll hit some Gardena. And then we go Black Rose. And he surrenders because Black Rose's second effect would kill him. Black Rose's second effect targets a defense position monster, turns it to attack, makes its attack 0. In the case of Reaper, targeting it would just kill it. It's the same thing. But then we have 28 plus 21, 49, plus Black Rose is 24. It's 7,300 damage to his 7,200 life points. So even without a spell to activate for Nitro, that's lethal. If I had a spell, it would be over 8,000. Okay, that's game 1. Going into game 2. Alright, so this hand is not great. I mean, it's playable, right? There's a monster, and there's back row. But it's not like the kind of hand you want to see in quick draw, typically. We hit a Gardena, which is good, because it means his hand's probably not great. Usually setting Gardena is a sign that your hand's not great. Set a couple of back row here. Don't want to overcommit. Again, I am playing around heavy. You know, 1 protective back row, 1 anti-back row. Feels like this would be enough. We see Diva, we're like, fine. You know, he can go into a synchro play, and we can deprison it. We're in a good spot. The problem is, he has Mindcon, which makes it awkward. Goes into Goyo, swings with both. We do get to deprison the Goyo, so we're okay, but we have no monsters. We have no plays. And of course we get a Trooper, which is an excellent draw in this situation. And we mill amazingly. This is a hugely lucky mill. To be fair, last game our mills were terrible, and I think I made a joke about that. But this one was very good. Now this is where I would say I make a misplay. Or I don't know if it's a misplay, it's hard to say. I set deprison. Maybe I should have just set both, right? I think sometimes I play too scared of, I don't know, heavy. Like even though he set a card, sometimes I might be like, what if that second card's heavy? Like, I don't know. It's trauma or something. I should have set the compulse too. So I'd say that was a minor misplay. He goes to banish the Trooper, where in this position, compulsing my Trooper and then prisoning would be just excellent. Gets another mill, gets my Trooper back on the board, you know, so that sucked. We draw Gores, which is like, okay, can't really do anything with that. We're not going to set compulse still, because now we want Gores to be live, right? We can get Gores live and then set compulse after. He goes for a lure, banishes his own Gores. We draw Sanguine. Sanguine good. If Trooper was good, Sanguine's probably good. He does have Torrential, so that does force our trap stun. Maybe I should have set Sanguine, you know? It's easy to play Captain Hindsight, because maybe I would have wanted to save trap stun. Again, this is call. If this was call or return, I would have wanted to save trap stun, right? So maybe I should have played around Torrential. Those are not necessarily misplays, because those are like things you notice in hindsight, whereas other things that I would say are misplays are just like when you objectively do something wrong or most likely do something wrong. So I don't know, it's up to you to determine whether setting there was better or not. We draw heavy. We figure we're probably not going to get any better value out of it, so I think we just rip it. Now this is where shit gets really awkward. We summon Sanguine and attack, and it's a Dyna, so that kills our tokens. We do not smash in here because we don't see the point yet. I think the idea is that I want to get my Sanguine search first, and then I can smash and ground the Dyna. Maybe that was a misplay, because if he summoned like Greffer or something... What's Greffer's defense again? It's like 1600? I don't remember. Anyway. We get Debris. He sets. We get a Crow. Smash the Dyna. And smashing is good against this deck, I think, because, you know, hitting a 0 is great, and hitting things like Dyna. We go for the Black Rose play, because get rid of his back row and monster. It's a Plague Spreader. We get tokens, we have Crow, we have Gores. We think we're okay spot. He gets the Sark for the Rhoda. We tribute into Titanial. Normally not a great draw, but in this position, a decent draw, especially he has no Gores. So we're sitting pretty. We draw Avarice. Great draw. He does have the Crow for it, but that's okay. We're still in a great position. He gets Rhoda next turn, but we have Crow and Gores. He puts up a pretty good fight for having no cards, right? He goes for Plague, I Crow it. He does get Future. Goes for the Rhoda, gets the Stratos, searches Evil Hero. I kill that. Now, this might be where I make a misplay, and I'll show you what I mean. He goes for Miracle. We cannot stop it with Crow. This is because no matter what we banish with Crow, he could still get off the Miracle, right? If we banish a hero, there's still another hero. If we banish a water, there's another water. Makes sense. So we accept that 0 is happening. He puts it in defense to save life. Fine. We draw Dandy. We're just gonna attack because there's no point. You don't want to be like, well, I don't want to lose my Titanial, so I won't attack the 0. Like, just kill the 0 and figure it out later, because otherwise it might backfire. We don't play anything. We have Gores. Now he gets the other 0. This is where our Gores will come in. Sets a back row. We play around Mirror Force because we haven't seen it yet. So we only turn Gores to attack. Do some damage and kill him. He lets it go through. We go for the main phase 2 Stratos play. We still have Crow. We have life. So we're thinking, like, with the small amount of cards he has, we're probably fine. Now this is where the misplay happens. Oh, no, I lied. Sorry, next turn is where the misplay happens. So I think I try to go for game here, right? He only has 200 life, so I figure Stratos can attack, and then Dandy will be game. Searches Diva. Now, I think I was so distracted by just going for lethal here that I didn't notice something, which is that, he survives. He karma cuts the Dandy, which is also bad because I have another Dandy in grave. But now this is where I misplay. I keep saying that. So I have Crow. I should have just ripped the Crow on Malicious. My thought process was, he'll go for Diva and use its effect, and then I can chain Crow. But here's the problem. He just goes Diva into Malicious immediately. And I say wait, but here's the thing. I can't make him wait. I realize this, and I say never mind. So here's what I mean. I can't say wait, I want to Crow Malicious, because you have priority as a player. The way priority works, a lot of people misunderstand it. When a monster is summoned to the field, you have what's called ignition priority. That means you have priority to use any ignition monster effect. Malicious is an ignition monster effect. The only time you lose priority is when the summoning of the monster starts to chain, right? So, or if you tribute off like a Sangin or something, then Sangin starts to chain, so you can't use priority. Because he didn't activate Diva's effect, he can instead use priority to banish Malicious. So if I had said, wait, I want to Crow the Malicious, he could say, no, it's priority, and then I just reveal that I have Crow. So I guess I thought, oh, he'll use Diva effect, and I can blow him out. But because he has the option not to, I should have just Crowed off the Malicious. So it's a misplay, and it's easy to see why I made the misplay, thinking, he still has another Diva target or whatever, but that could have been avoided. So, he doesn't even have another Diva target. So so that was actually just a clear misplay. But yep, it happens. So he, don't forget about Malicious priority. He goes into a Stardust, which at least we're glad he didn't go Thought Ruler, although we do have Gardna. So I guess either way it would have been Gardna. Scapegoat's a pretty good draw here because we have Plasma. So we have Foolish Burial, but remember, there's Gardna's already used and both Dandies are banished, which is why I said it, because it's basically dead. Usually it's not. Take the 700 this time. We will end phase Goats. And we go Plasma. He returns to survive. We just pass, so everything goes back to banish. His last card was Dad. He had 4 Darks in grave, but even if he had 3, his Brain Control's dead, and Dad can't do anything against a 3150 attack Plasma. His effect won't work. He can put it in defense, but then we'll just kill him next turn. So he was donezo. Okay. Maybe I'll just do a few games in this video since it might be a little long. We'll see. All right, this is a high-rated Blackwing player. We do go first. Again, I don't know what deck he's on. With this hand, Lone Fire with Call is always pretty good because, you can just bring back Titanial. Now, that being said, a turn 1 Titanial is strong against almost every deck. The deck that it's weakest against is Blackwing. It's still decent versus Blackwing, but the worst case scenario is like Shura Kalut. That just gets over it completely, and they basically lose nothing. Sirocco and another card will kind of work, but remember, Sirocco targets, so Titanial can kill Sirocco if they use its effect. So I'll show you what happens. He doesn't have the Shura Kalut. He does go Sirocco Gale, and we have to negate Gale here because otherwise he can just attack over it anyway. So at least we're trading Titanial for Gale. It's not ideal, but it's a 1-for-1, right? And then we do have Call, so we're just going to call back Titanial. If he has Kalut, I figured he would have attacked through it. Now he's a high-rated player and he's smart, so he's a little tricksy. We're not going to summon anything. We don't know what he has. We're just going to go... Or no, that's not true. We know that if he has Icarus attack, we can negate it with Titanial. And if he has something like Mirror Force, it's going to blow out our Titanial either way. So again, this is another situation where it's like, there's no point in playing around the card that's good already anyway. So Stratos here is fine. If he Mirror Forces, it's basically the same position. But I want to get the search off. He's thinking on Stratos. He bottomlesses it. Great. Love it when they bottomless Stratos. So I'm thinking, like, he must have Kalut. or just no better play because, you know, what's he going to do? But either way, we have to attack here. We can't pass. And he does have Clute, so I think it was smart of him to hold it. If he had just Cluted last turn, then, you know, maybe I just MST his back row and make some play or whatever. So he holds it. He's a good player. I think we set just the trap stun, or do we set both? He just sets the trap stun. Gonna fast forward a little. Now, Foolish Burial is an insane draw here, for obvious reasons. We have Debris, we have Plasma. And we're just gonna go balls to the wall because he has no back row. So, Foolish Dandy. Fast forward. Debris Dandy. Make Stardust. That leaves us with 3 tokens. Make Plasma. Steal Sirocco. Now, at this point, he's already used a Colute, which is like a 2900 Plasma is not dying at this point, right? Because he probably doesn't have Sirocco and another Blackwing. He already used 1 Colute. It's not impossible he has another, but like this beats Blizzard, right? He hasn't used any Blizzards yet. So we think we're in a pretty good spot. The biggest fear at this point is Brain Control. You know, other than like Shura Colute. But, yeah. So we hit him for a whole bunch of damage. Set our stuff. He has Brain Control. Now, this is where we are smart to hold. If he had Brain Conned the Stardust, we would chain MST on the Brain Con and then chain Stardust effect. Okay? But he went for Plasma. He cannot use the effect to equip because it can only have one thing, and he already has Sirocco. So I wait until he goes into his battle phase. Now, this is really good. I'm going to show his hand. Show both. He had Blizzard. So he could have brain controlled brain controlled Plasma, went for a Blizzard play, and then won the game. He didn't know that. I mean, he would have had to go, or no, he couldn't have won the game because there's no Brionic. So he could have just went like Blizzard into Gale half, or Blizzard into Colute, you know, make Android attack over both. But I have 2 back row, so I think he's just thinking, play it safe, see what happens first. Maybe I have to back row the Plasma. But because I know he's not going to kill me now, we go to MST the Sirocco, and then chain Stardust Negate. So now he can hit me for 29 direct, which he does. But in the end phase, he can't tribute it for Sirocco. He doesn't have one. And our Stardust is coming back. So he scoops because he's just going to get hit with Stardust and Plasma. He could like set Blizzard or play Blizzard and get, like, he could stall another turn maybe with Blizzard, but he would take a ton of damage, and I guess he just figured he was dead. I had Trap Stun for his Legacy of Yatagarasu too. All right, going into game 2. We go for the Heavy Rip. We're lucky we do. Okay, let me talk about that for a second here. So we Heavy Rip. He gets Legacy, but we're still +1 because we hit 2 very good back row. Now, there were a lot of options here. He had Bora and 3 cards in hand. I always assume Colute if they have enough cards in hand. So I had like 3 different play options here. There was Sidra and just attack, force out Colute if he has one, kill him if he doesn't. There was Sirocco pump attack, and then there was Sidra and Dacaius. The reason I went Sidra and Dacaius is because I wanted to turn off Blizzard. You know, it was a resource-heavy move. I'll still have Sirocco. I'll still have Dust for like Whirlwind or whatever. But I don't want his Blizzard to be live because like Goyoing my Caius right now would leave me in a really bad position. I basically have no out to that. You know, I could summon Sirocco and then he would Goyo over that. It's just a game over. So I feel like I have to turn off Blizzard. The worst case scenario is if he has Shura and Colute. I have Dust Tornado, so Whirlwind and Shura is fine. But the worst case scenario is Shura Colute. And you can see I'm showing hand here. And yeah. So, sucks to suck for me. He also gets another Colute. So now he chooses not to synchro here, play around some back row. So I can pump for a lot of damage. Now I had why isn't it pausing? There we go. I had 2 options to attack here. This would put him to 800 life, which turns off brain control. But the problem that I saw with that play is I didn't want to leave... I'm trying to remember. What was my reasoning for killing? I thought about it a lot. Gale is negated, so it can't half. So I didn't consider leaving it up to be a big threat. I think my reasoning for killing Shura was I didn't want him to get off a synchro without another summon. I don't remember. At the time, it made sense. But either way, it's not the issue. It didn't really matter which one I left up. Because if I had killed Gale, he just goes Shura Kalut again and I lose. And then he has Blizzard, so it really didn't matter what I did. And unfortunately, I drew this Gores after setting Dust Tornado, right? I had Dust Tornado, I set it, I draw Gores. And of course, leave it to this guy who just continuously draws no more spells, no Whirlwinds, no back rows for the next, 3 turns. So, he goes Blizzard, goes into Goyo. Now, we're in a bad spot. So, he's really smart to make Colossal here. I rip what you would think would be, the best card to rip. But because he made Colossal, it's not. If I Colossal the Goyo, there's no warriors in the grave, in either grave. So if I Colossal the Goyo, he gets the Colossal back. If I Brain the Colossal, he gets the Colossal back. Either way, he's getting the Colossal back. And I can't kill him because I can only, there's no damage here. I can't tribute it off. So I'm like, shit, I have to wait another turn. I have to hope that my Dandy and Gores can stall me until I can make a better BrainCon play the next turn, right? So it's like, okay, Dandy can probably keep me alive long enough for me to get a BrainCon off next turn. That's my thought process. But of course, he has another Blizzard and makes the Brionic. And does he bounce both? No. He's super smart. This is probably why he's 1450. Or he can see my cards and he's a cheater. No, I'm just kidding. He's a smart player. Bounces my monster. And now I can't go Gores either. So that sucks. Always sucks to draw Gores after Dust Tornado. But at least we're going first in game 3. Let's hide his hand. Oh, not my hand. We do open Future Fusion and Lone Fire, which is nice. Now, normally, when you open Future Fusion and Lone Fire, you want to make Lone Fire into Titanial. The only deck I don't do this against, typically, is Blackwings, because you don't want to leave a Shura target up. So in this case, we're just going to go Lone Fire, Titanial. That way, if he has Shura, he doesn't get any search without having to also have Kalut. And now we can show his hand, and he does have Shura, so it was very good that we did this. It's also very good we went first, considering his back row. Bottomless, Oppression. This would have been so much worse to go second against. Okay. He goes Shura, he kills a token, sets all 4. We end phase Dust because we want to use Dust second effect to set our trap stun. We do Snipe probably the worst card of his back row, but maybe not. You never know. Drawing more cards is... Yeah. So, I would say there's a couple of misplays in this game. I think I was nervous in the game 3. I should have just summoned the Dandelion. I know I had Trap Stun, so I wasn't afraid of Torrential or Mirror. I think what I was afraid of is on the off chance his last card is Kalut, and I attack with Titanial, and then he Kaluts it. I don't want to also leave up another card for him to search off of. But maybe I just should have smashed it. I don't know. There's a lot of things I could have done. I think I just decided to go for it. He mirrors. We Trap Stun. We get Gaia. And Road Draw was nice too, because now if he has Torrential, we could protect it. But he doesn't have Torrential. He bottomlesses it instead. We get the Garden Engrave since we don't need the Dandy. Now we go to swing. 31. He goes Goyo. Now this is where I would say I made a huge misplay. And I don't know what I was thinking. I just put Garden in the grave, so you think it would be fresh on my mind, right? But this shit happens, so, it's important to show it. There's no reason I don't just Garden to this and then Smash and Ground, and then he's in a really bad position. I don't know, maybe because I felt like crashing wasn't so bad for me. I don't know. I let it go through. That was dumb. I have Titanial, Dandy, and a token against Blackwing. I should have Gardened it. I didn't. I draw Trooper, which is a good draw, though. We pressure him for 22. He goes Sir Coco, attack. This time we're like, oh yeah, we have Gardna. Let's just try that. And then Gardna, smashing ground. Oh yeah, this was back when I was still trying to run Yamato Dragon. This was like 2 days ago. I took this card out, but it was fun while it lasted. All right, cool. So those are our first 3 matches. I think I'll save the others for later because this might be a little long as is. I'm going to go back into my deck here and talk about some of the siding, and then we'll call it. And if you guys have any questions, comments, things I should do differently, things that you'd like to see more of, let me know. So this is the sideboard. For the first deck against Gladiator Beast, typically you are siding out. I side out Caius's usually. Sometimes I'll even one if I'm going first or something, but usually I'll side out both. I usually side out Gores. I think I side out Plasma. I side out Reaper. I think I side out Jar, and I think I side out Sanguine. I side out Trap Dust Shoot when I'm going second. I'll keep it in going first. I'll keep Trap Stun in going first, but actually side it out going second. I don't think it's as good going second. The reason being they can just usually bestiary your Trap Stun or whatever. I don't know. They'll Trap Stun you when you try to kill their Gladiator Beast and then kill your Trap Stun. Dust Tornadoes work better. And then I will bring in My Body's a Shield, Compulse, Deep Prison, both Dust Tornado, both Smashing Ground, maybe a Crow, Cyber Dragon, Sirocco if I'm going second, and then sometimes Kaiku as well. I don't know if that added up exactly, but typically it's those cards that I bring in. So it's a lot of cards coming in for Gladiator Beast. They're not a great matchup. Hopefully you can win game 1 because then your odds are much better in game 3. Whoops. For Diva Hero, I bring in all 3 Crows. I think I bring in Kaiku. Let me think for a second. Yeah, I probably bring in Kaiku as well. So these 4. I think I brought in one of the Smashing Grounds, but not both. Sometimes siding is like a feels thing. It's not always like exactly the same versus every deck. Sometimes it just depends on certain things, like what they've seen. You know, like the cards they've seen in previous games might inform how they side. So there's a little bit of like intuiting that. I'll bring in. I sometimes will bring in the second Trap Stun. Sometimes I'll just keep in one. I do bring in the Compulse. It's very strong against that deck. Sometimes I'll bring in My Body if I'm going second. Sometimes, yeah. What comes out against Diva Hero? This is always the struggle, and I'm trying to remember these things in the moment. I think I take out a Quick Draw. I think I go to 2 if I'm going second. I probably take out Trap Dust Shoot if I'm going second. I think I take out Mirror Force because I feel like it usually just doesn't work. Like they'll either go Stardust or bounce it with Brionic or blow it up with Dad or something like that. What else? I think going second, I'll side out Reaper. Maybe I keep in Jar. I don't know. TBD. I'll come back to that. And then versus Blackwings, I side out to 1 Quick Draw. So versus Vayu and Blackwings, I typically just drop to 1 Quick Draw. I know it feels bad because it's like, why are you a Quick Draw deck? But Quick Draw is 100% at its strongest game 1 before people side around it. So it makes sense to have 3. That doesn't mean you have to keep 3. There's a lot of decks I will side to 2. Those decks I will side to 1. Sometimes I'll keep all 3. But going to 1 or 2 is both pretty common. And against the bird decks, I'm typically going to 1. So cut 2 of those. I'll typically cut a Debris Dragon and go from 3 to 2. Versus Blackwings, I'll cut Reaper. Versus Vayu, I'll cut Reaper unless I'm going first, and then it's a maybe. Versus Morphing Jar, I will cut against Vayu if I'm going second, but I think I keep it in versus Vayu if I'm going first, or you can cut it. But I'll keep it in versus Blackwings, because they don't always set their hands. Sometimes you can just, like, get them with that if I'm going first. Although, I don't know, I might side it out, too. Versus Blackwings, though, the definite side outs besides these are, one of those is the Reaper is definite side out versus Blackwings. I'll side out Trap Dust Shoot if I'm going second, and then bring it back in when going first. I'll side out Sanguine because it's usually Shura bait. Stop. Hold on, guy. It's a lot of messages. I'll side out Sanguine, yeah, because it's Shura bait. I'll side out call sometimes too. Oh my god. I will side out. What else am I forgetting? Sometimes Gores. If I'm going first, I usually side out Gores. Sometimes even going second. It's not great versus Blackwings. But basically, I bring in the Trap Stun, bring in my body, bring in D-Prisons, bring in Dusts. Sometimes both. Sometimes just one and heavy if I'm going second. Sometimes both. Both if I'm going first, and sometimes both either way. I don't know. It just depends. And then Sirocco. And the 2 Smash and Ground. I feel like I'm failing in telling you guys all the things I side out. Because there's a few things I didn't list. What else do I side out? Maybe Regeki Break? I don't know. It depends. It's probably 2 Quick Draw, 1 Debris, 1 Sanguine, 1 Call of the Haunted. How many is that? 5. Morphing Jar, 6. Spirit Reaper, 7. Trap Dust Shoot, if I'm going second. 8. Maybe Call if I have to. That's like 9. 8 to 9. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I bring sometimes Sidra too if I'm going second. It just depends. But yeah, okay. Hopefully that's enough for this. Let me know what you guys think if you have any questions. And I will include some more games another time. Try to do some live stuff too. Or not live. Well, maybe live. But try to actually play the games and talk about thought process during them as well. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Good luck, duelists.